Episode 5, The Namibian Jungle. Location, Waterberg Plateau National Park, 68 kilometers southeast of Ijuwarongo, northeast of Namibia, 70 million years after the extinction of mankind. With the increase of sea levels and global temperature, a lot of environments of the world is now much more wet and rainy than back in the Anthropocene. The change is most noticeable in Africa, especially Namibia and South Africa, which once was a mix of subtropical grasslands and vast deserts, has now become a huge extension of tropical forests surrounded by mangrove and brackish water swamps. The dense vegetation is composed mostly by large trees, including baobab, acacia and kapok descendants, and relatively small bushes, relatives of moringa, roses and boxwoods, as well as some ferns and parasitic cactus and bromelias. As we walk through the forest floor, in a small clear, between the trees, the first creature we encounter is an herbivorous rodent, the duckworm. This animal is around 80 centimeters tall, and 70 kilograms in weight, and it's the most common and widespread member of a family known as the crowned rats, a family of large rodents that can be found all the way from South Africa to the south of Europe, and part of the Middle East. They bear their weight in 2 toes, a trait they convergently evolved with the now extinct artiodactyls, and are a very fast runner, reaching speeds of around 60 to 70 kilometers per hour. They are very adaptable and can be found in open grasslands, tropical forests and even mountainous regions. They generally feed in grasses and leaves, sometimes also nuts and seeds. The populations that live in dense forests often ingest canned coal in order to purge themselves from the toxins poisonous vegetation. They are one of many species or crowned rats in which the males have horns. These, just like the ones of the now extinct rhinos, are made out of keratin. They use these horns for intraspecific combat and display. The most impressive horns belong to the strongest and healthiest adult males. We follow the herd to a river, and here we find another peculiar creature, the African angler snake, a relatively small reptilian predator, around the size of a rattlesnake, that can be found in most tropical regions of Asia and Western Africa, always near bodies of water like rivers or swamps. They have a fleshy, mobile and sensitive structure in the tip of their tail, that they use to attract fishes and other small aquatic animals. They generally wait either on top of a rock or coiled around a tree branch, submerging only their tail, and once they feel something bites, they will move with an astounding speed and deliver a powerful bite to the prey, after what they will swallow it whole. They rather places covered by vegetation in order to avoid being noticed by birds of prey. They are also sometimes preyed upon by mid-sized mammals and even bigger reptiles like large vernids. Despite its name, the angler snake is not a true snake but a legless lizard, descendant of a population of skinks that firstly evolved in Australia around 50 million years ago. While their ancestors evolved this form in order to swim in the sands of vast deserts, now they have diversified to a lot of different lifestyles and environments. Not too far away from the river we find another lizard. This one, however, is a herbivore. The Nambakuri, also called tortoise lizard, is one of many descendants of agamid lizards that can be found in most of Western Africa. They feed on a wide variety of vegetation, from fruits and berries to leaves and hard grasses. They are relatively long-lived, with some specimens living as much as 50 years and growing up to 80 centimeters in length, but is not common. They are generally solitary creatures, only interacting for mating. They can mate year-round, but the peak is in autumn. After mating, the female will dig a small burrow and lay between 4 and 6 eggs the size of a ping-pong ball. The female will remain in close proximity in order to keep an eye on any possible egg thief that might be around. After 2 months, when the babies hatch, she'd go away and the small lizards will have to survive on their own. Many predators are more than willing to make a meal out of one of these hatchlings, just a couple meters away. For example, we can see a spotted lichen on the prowl, one of the few fully carnivorous rodents alive, and an expert lizard hunter. These gerbil descendants are around the size of a fox, and can be found in both forests and grasslands. In most of Western Africa, they feed on a wide variety of small creatures, including small mammals, frogs and insects, but the bulk of their diet is composed by lizards, and while an adult Nambakuri is a rather too risky target, the juvenile ones are still on the menu. The lichen is generally solitary, However, they have been observed to form monogamous pairs sometimes, but the never large groups like other closely related species do. They are actually quite territorial, and especially females are very aggressive. Sometimes territorial disputes escalate to the point of killing each other. A very loud scream resonates among the branches, and when we look up we can see another very territorial small mammal, the pygmy monkey shrew, the smallest of all the African monkey shrews and one of the least social species. Here we can see two adult males, none much bigger than a rat, both armed with relatively huge 1.5 centimeters long canine teeth and several 1 centimeter long sharp claws, intensely fighting while at the same time keeping their balance in the thin and flimsy branches of the canopy. After a few minutes the smaller male runs away and the bigger one goes back to its daily routine of hunting for insects and other small invertebrates. They have a very high metabolism and need to eat around a third of their body weight daily. They are active in irregular periods through the day and night, almost always spending the hottest hours of the day hiding in small holes in trees or abandoned termite nests, to avoid overheating. While we are observing the small insectivore looking for a place to rest, we spot another arboreal creature in the distance, a family of Namibian gremlins, the only species of sloth bat that can be found in Western Africa. The sloth bats, gliding bats or tree bats, are a family of bats that firstly evolved in the East African continent around 35 million years ago. They are a group of herbivorous bats that generally move very slow metabolism and have relatively small brains compared with other species of bats. Thanks to these adaptations they can sustain themselves feeding almost exclusively on leaves, and while most of them still retain enough of their wings to glide for short distances, most of the largest species have completely lost all their patagium, and reduce their wings to just 3-finger, a large clawed thumb and clawless very small index and middle finger, that help give them more stability while moving in the forest floor. The Namibian gremlin usually lives in family groups formed by a male and 2 or 3 females. However, monogamous pairs are not unheard of. The younglings will remain with their parents until reaching sexual maturity, at about 3 years of age. We observe the group for a while, eventually they all fall asleep. Adults can spend around 14 hours every day sleeping, so it's not surprising, they will sleep hanging from the branches, sometimes supporting their weight with all their limbs, sometimes hinging from just their legs like the all rest of the bats. Younglings will hold on tight to their mothers even while asleep. We leave the group alone and start heading back, when we stumble upon another herbivorous rodent, but compared to the sheep-sized acorns, this 3.5 meters tall male calf is a giant. The animal gives no importance to our presence and continues eating. They feed primarily on leaves and twigs, but will gladly eat any sort of sweet fruits or berries if given the chance, and in rare occasions they have also been observed to lick honey from beneath beehives. They can be found in most tropical forest and semi-open grasslands of Western Africa, from the north of Nigeria to here in Namibia, with the largest specimens reaching almost 4 meters in height and 1,400 kilograms in weight. They are some of the largest animals of the continent. The males have 4 very thin and long ever-growing tusks derived from their incisors, that they use for intraspecific combat and sexual display. These structures are very fragile and prone to get broken, especially during the brutal fights that take place during the mating season. Receptive females will produce a very strong smell from a gland located under their belly. This will attract all the males in the area, and if 2 of them arrive at the same time they will face each other and clash their necks, and wrestle while trying to stab each other with their tusks. These fights usually leave them very wounded and vulnerable to predators. The winner will mate with a female several times during the following weeks, and after a pregnancy of 10 months the female will give birth to a single calf that will remain under the mother's protection for at least 2 years.